Hey, how's it going? Today we are going to play an Uxie Azelf Cofagrigus spread deck. Now I've been trying to build a good spread deck ever since the Alakazam came out that can move damage counters around with like the Yveltal and the Tinglu that can spread 30 to everything, but never had much luck with it, and I think that this is the closest that I've gotten to a good spread deck. Now first of all, the namesake of the deck is Uxie. It has an attack for 1 psychic that just says put 2 damage counters on all your opponent's Pokemon. This is a pretty solid attack. It's a little bit better than the Yveltal's attack. The Yveltal only puts damage counters on Pokemon that are already damaged. What we're going to want to do is go second and use Uxie turn 1 if we can. Hopefully our opponent fills their bench. And then if our opponent benches a bunch of Pokemon with abilities, we're going to use the baby Cofagrigus that has an attack for 1 psychic that says put 6 damage counters on all Pokemon with abilities in play. This is why we don't have any Pokemon with abilities in the deck except for the Evolution Cofagrigus EX, because we do not want to damage our own Pokemon. So we're going to try to put a bunch of damage in play, and then we have the Azelf to take big one-shots and knock out threats. That has the attack for Psychic Colorless that does 10 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon, and we have 2 counter gain in here to use this attack, so we're going to spread a few times, take a big one-shot if we need to, but if we don't need to, we can just keep spreading and set up to eventually win the game with the Cofagrigus EX. This has an attack for 2 Psychic that does 110, and we put 5 damage counters on our opponent's bench Pokemon in any way we like. It also has an ability that when it gets knocked out, we can grab any card out of our deck, but we should be using this for our last attacker, so this ability should not activate very often. So usually at some point in the game, you can kind of float an energy on a Yamask or attach an EXP share to it, and then be able to attack with this guy at the end of the game. I also put 2 accompanying flutes in here. I notice if like we start the Uxie, our opponent often won't bench a bunch of Pokemon, so having the flutes to force Pokemon into play is really good, especially if we can get like Rotoms and Squawkabillies. And there are a lot of tools in this deck, so of course we have 2 Town Store and a couple Arven to grab them, mainly to get like our TM Devos for the matchups that we need them, and our counter gains to attack with Uxie, and our like Rescue Board to retreat. We also have 1 Vengeful Punch in here. This can come in handy to help us get rid of threats like a lot sooner. If we throw it on our Uxie and our opponent like hits into it with an Iron Hands or something like that, it'll do 40 damage to it, so it's like kind of effectively an extra 80 damage because it does 40 to the Pokemon and makes it so our Azelf also does another 40 damage because of it. So definitely think this was pretty useful. The rest of the cards are just to make the deck work, and yeah, let's get into the games. Alright, as you can see, this first game is when I still had a Ditto in the deck. When I was like first building the deck, I had a bunch of extra spots, and I wanted to increase the odds that I can get an Azelf into the active turn 1 because the Yamasks have 2 retreats. So yeah, I had a Ditto in there, but eventually I didn't really have the space for it. This hand's a little awkward. I have to transform the Ditto first to get the Uxie so that I can attach the energy to the Uxie, because if I attach it to the Ditto, it'll get discarded when I use the Ditto's ability. So I'm forced to use it first, which is kind of unfortunate, but it'll be fine. This hand is not really too great. I grab a Yamask because I know I'm not getting knocked out next turn. I don't need to use Azelf next turn, and I'm assuming my opponent is going to TM EVO this turn, so there will be like a couple Pokemon on the bench with abilities, and then I can hopefully use the Cofagrigus attack to spread a bunch more damage. Now this hand is a little unfortunate. It's kind of fine. I have the Iono, but my opponent's hand doesn't seem that great, so it always feels bad to be forced to Iono someone in these situations, but that is where we're at. And I'm also kind of forced to Ultra Ball away the Town Store, which I didn't really want to do, but I really want to keep the TM Devo around. I think having both of them around will be pretty good, and I obviously want the Psychic Energy to attach to the Cofagrigus and the Iono to play. So I can't use the Town Store. It's kind of unfortunate. I would have liked to grab a Rescue Board or whatever it's called out of the deck. And this hand that I get after the Iono is pretty good. And as you can see, I did prize 2 Uxie, which is pretty unfortunate. But yeah, I just retreat and use the attack. Now I retreat and use it because it does get me a little bit more damage in play. With my opponent only having 5 Pokemon in play, the Uxie would only put 100 damage in play, but 2 abilities makes it so the Cofagrigus is putting 120 damage in play, and it gets me a little bit closer to being able to pull off a TM Devo play. like I can spread 2 more times with Uxie and then Devo and hopefully get rid of all my opponent's Dragapults. And the cool part about the Devo too is as long as we have the Dragapults with enough damage on them to knock out the Dracloaks below it, when we Devo, it'll also pick up my opponent's Dracloaks, and they don't play rare candies, so it'll be almost guarantee us an extra turn of them not attacking. So that is definitely kind of cool. I just throw the Vengeful Punch onto the Uxie here because I just don't really think it's going to be that great anywhere else. And then I counter catcher up the Toadstool, and I'm going to spread and just kind of hope that they can't retreat. I also choose to just thin one of the Poffins out of my deck. I probably could have thinned both of them out, but I might want that for a Vessel target next turn. Or, yeah, I probably could have just gotten rid of it, but we're here now. Unfortunately, my opponent hits a Crispin off of their Pokegear there. I don't know, I figured that it wasn't the best odds to... wow, I just completely lost my train of thought. It wasn't the best odds to buy a turn, but I figured I might as well try it. If I were able to buy the turn there, I'd be in a really good spot, so just kind of went for it. My opponent is able to take a couple knockouts there, which kind of sucks. Now, this is kind of a hard decision. I don't have a rescue board target, and if I don't know, I could send up the Yamask and try and get into the Cofagrigus EX and also attack with that, but I don't know. It's just kind of a tough spot, so I decided to send up the Azelf and hope that I get into the counter gain, which I do end up getting into. I think I was only playing 1 counter gain at this point, and there a bunch of games went like this where it got to a certain point where I really just wanted to keep using Azelf's attack, and I could only use it once, so yeah, that's why I ended up adding the second counter gain, because the EXP share is more specifically for the Cofagrigus EX. Yeah, I was debating evolving that or not. I wasn't sure if it was a good idea, but I don't want them to knock out my Yamask with the EXP share on it. So yeah, I just evolve it. Figured it'd be a little bit more worth it. And I also stretcher for the energy beforehand because my opponent can put Toadstool in play, which would make it so that I can't use my stretchers to get energy anymore, and I'd be in kind of a rough spot. So I figure I have 2 more stretchers anyway. I might as well burn one now to try and guarantee that I have an energy next turn. Now they do just like whiff everything. They don't even get a Crispin, and I am able to use the EXP share to move the energy. Now I can preload an energy onto my Azelf, and I can start attacking with this Cofagrigus, or I can, I think what I end up, oh no, did I mess up this game too? This is kind of unfortunate. Oh no, I do, alright, I do what I think I did. I don't know why I didn't preload an energy onto the Azelf. I guess because they could just knock it out if they attack with the Dragapult this turn. But I figured here I could knock out both of their little guys before they evolve into big HP guys, and then TM Devo next turn. The only thing, I put myself in a really weird spot because of this EXP share and I have no way to remove it, to put the TM Devo onto the active, which is a little bit unfortunate. Oh yeah, there's not a very much meaningful amount of damage in play anyway to use Azelf anyway, so this is kind of a weird turn. I have like exactly enough resources in the deck to pull these 2 plays off. I have a Switch, and I think I have 1 more Psychic Energy in the deck. So I'm just gonna research. I Nest Ball there to look at my deck to see what's left in it. And I'm gonna research, and this puts me like really low in with the amount of cards in deck, but I think I have pretty good odds to hit what I need. And here I just double check my deck again. I have the Switch, I have a Psychic, I have a couple boss. So yeah, I have everything I need. I don't know, not drawing the Switch is a little bit awkward because I can TM Devo here. my opponent's going to send up the Iron Thorns, and if I top deck the Switch, I can boss up their guy next turn. If they evolve it, if they don't evolve their Toad Scroll, I win either way with the extra damage from the Cofagrigus. But if they evolve it and I top deck Switch, I can boss up the Toad Scroll and knock it out. But they do end up counter catching up my Cofagrigus. I think that they were just basically saying, I don't think you have any energy left in your deck, I guess, but I did, so I didn't top deck the Switch, so I did end up winning because of the counter catcher. I would have ended up winning either way the next turn, but they definitely helped out. Now this game we're up against Gardevoir. The game just took so long that my shadow recording feature didn't record the entire thing. All that you missed was my opponent passed with a Ralts in the active, Ralts on the bench. I took my turn, benched all these Pokemon, used Uxie's attack to spread 20 to the active and the one bench Ralts that has 20 on it. And yeah, at this point I am planning to use the Cofagrigus, the one without the EXP share on it of course, and use that attack and take out one of their Curlias and set the other ones up to be knocked out. And my thought process is I don't want to play the research because I have everything I need in my hand next turn to just get another Cofagrigus attack and yeah, set up or hopefully knock out all their Curlias if they don't evolve into an EX, or at least set them all up to be knocked out with a TM Devo at some point in the future. But of course they immediately have the Monkey Dory, which is kind of unfortunate, but I have to figure that that is going to come into play at some point. We just have to kind of hope that they don't have two. We really have to hope that this isn't Henry Chow's list, because they would only have one Monkey Dory, but they would also have access to the Moonlit Hill, and I'm already down one Town Store, so I definitely need to save that Town Store for when they put that in play. Actually, I think I know that they have Moonlit Hill because I think we mulliganed and I saw it in their opening hand. Can't really remember though. I did have to use the one Town Store to retreat the Azelf into the Uxie to get the first spread attack off, which was kind of unfortunate. Maybe it wasn't even worth it to do that because getting rid of the Moonlit Hill is going to be so important when they put it in play, but I did it and we're here now. We're just kind of hoping that they don't get the dark energy this turn. Oh no, I think they already attached retreated. They do get the Moonlit Hill, so that is pretty unfortunate. That basically ruins all my plans to I thought next turn I was going to be able to Devo almost all of their Curlias and basically win the game. I was thinking that it was funny because right before this matchup I was playing a bunch of I played Ancient Box 3 games in a row, and that is literally impossible for this deck to beat. And I was like, oh, I hope why can't I just hit a deck like Guardy or something like that? And then I hit the Guardy and the matchup is not as good as I pictured it just from briefly thinking about it for 1 second. If I thought a little further though, I would have realized that it's not the best matchup because yeah, all their Pokemon have abilities, but if they can stick this Moonlit Hill in play and get 1 or 2 Monkey Dories down, then it becomes really hard for me to spread a meaningful amount of damage. They get to pick which Pokemon stay damaged that way, so of course they're not going to let their Guard EXs and Curlias have a bunch of damage on them. They'd rather have their big basics that they can Bravery Charm have more damage. So yeah, that's pretty unfortunate for me, or for this matchup. And at this point I'm kind of thinking that there's almost no way that we can win unless they don't have a Turo or can't get access to their Turo this turn, because if they're able to Turo their EX, they basically removed all the damage from play, and they do have the Turo, which is pretty unfortunate. The only good part about this is they're going to have to re-damage their Guard EX, so that I guess is a plus if we're looking at any pluses. And I also luckily got the I think I got my Yamask out of the prizes there, so we were able to bench that. I can hopefully attack with that again this turn. I used the flute to basically look at their deck. I don't expect to hit anything. They don't have anything real meaningful in their deck. This is also a kind of a strange list from my opponent. where I don't think that they're playing Super Rods in their Guardy deck, which is kind of weird. And I do choose to use the Moonlit Hill on my own side because I don't want them to be able to take an extra prize randomly, like through Monkey Dory damage or anything like that, or if they play like Fluttermane or something. So yeah, I just Unfair Stamp them, use the Moonlit Hill, and use my big spread attack. And of course they can Monkey Dory 30 more damage off, but what I'm thinking is that if they don't evolve this Ralt into a Kirlia, next turn I can TM Devo them and make it so that they can't use any attack except for their Monkey Dory attack, which they do put an energy on. So I'm kind of thinking that that's what's going to happen. Or actually, I don't even need to TM Devo them. I can knock them out with Azelf. And yeah, just take 2 prizes that way. I can use hopefully I use my benched Azelf with a counter gain on it. Because right now what I'm kind of thinking is I can knock out this Guardy EX this turn and then knock out the Pheasantipity, or I meant knock out the Guardy EX this turn, knock out Pheasantipity next turn. But in hindsight, I think I had to knock out the Pheasantipity this turn, which seems like pretty counterintuitive, but I just removed so much damage from play. Like taking that 170 damage out of play is going to make it so I can't knock out the Pheasantipity because I couldn't remove the Stadium. They have the Monkey Dory to move damage. If they can use Moonlit Hill, I'm definitely not knocking it out. So yeah, that's why I think I might have had to counter catcher the Pheasantipity last turn. But now I have to figure out basically a new plan. I can use my benched Azelf to knock out this Monkey Dory. I could also... Oh, never mind. I was going to say I could Arven for a counter catcher and bring up Pheasantipity and use TM Devo, but we are even on prizes. So I might as well get rid of this Monkey Dory while I can. I don't end up Ioning them low. I guess that makes sense because I have the TM Devo in hand and the odds that I find it off in Iono are very low. Now, this next turn, I pretty much need to top deck boss to win the game. Oh, they do end up Ionoing me. Oh no, because if I just need to find TM Devo because yeah, they can't attack me. I think that they're out of the rare candies yet. So we're looking for TM Devo or maybe boss to buy a turn. They do end up using a second Rescue Stretcher to take advantage of the Moonlit Hill. And my only win condition is, yeah, to top deck boss and then for their last prize to be their 7th Psychic Energy and for this to be a weird list that doesn't play any super odds. They're down 2 Night Stretchers. They have 6 energy in total in the discard pile and on the board. So yeah, and they don't grab super odd off of the secret box. Now we just have to see what they grab off the Arven. This is kind of like a long shot, but I thought this was a good example of sometimes you just have to try what the only possible line for you to win is. And mine is for them to not play 7 energy or their 7th energy to be prized. They Iono me again. I top deck Research, and now I can Stretcher for a Psychic Energy and TM Devo, and basically hope that they deck out before they can get an attack, or that that they can't ever retreat this Pheasantipity. Those are my 2 win conditions. So the way that they use the trade of the Kirlia makes me think that they did have a way to retreat in deck. So I just TM Devo them again. And yeah, now I just have to see if they can retreat or not, or put more cards back in their deck, and they just pass with 0 cards in deck. So we end up winning that game by deck out. Yeah, that was a cluster of a game. I definitely don't think that I played it the best, but I did end up finding the win condition at the end, and it ended up being one of the rare times that a stall play like that can end up to winning the game. Yeah, that is the closest that I've gotten to making a good spread deck in a while. A couple people in the comments definitely gave me ideas for this. I never thought about using the Cofagrigus, and that definitely gets the deck a lot closer to being good. The baby Cofagrigus to make the damage add up much quicker to make Azelf take big one-shots. Unfortunately, I don't know that this is going to be a good deck ever. The Pokemon have too low of HP. They don't do enough damage for a spread deck like this. Spread in this sense, where you're doing like a flying flip style attack, like 20 damage to all the Pokemon, has kind of been power crept out of being a thing because they can't really raise it to 30 or 40 damage because the evolving basics still have the same amount of HP that they basically always had, and stage 2s and the big basics like the basic EXs and even the just 140 hit point basic Pokemon have too much HP for that to be effective. So they can't put 30 on it. It would just start knocking stuff out too quick, and 20 isn't enough. Kind of unfortunate. Good players can always play around this. They just realize that if they only have one Pokemon in the active, your deck isn't doing anything. So they're not forced to bench a bunch of Pokemon with abilities to get Cofagrigus down, which is why I think that you do need the Cofagrigus EX to kind of like have an option to put some pressure on. But yeah, I don't know. Spread has always been kind of a cool strategy, and it has been viable in several years now, so I definitely wanted to give it a try. But yeah, like or dislike, comment, subscribe, take care, and have a good one.